I think, overall, if you look at the region in general, it's not an easy region. It has like a lot of history that kept this region with very heavy baggage. And what Qatar, the way Qatar is situated as a small nation among bigger nations, we have also to make sure that our region is prosper, our region is stable, and basically our national security stands on the stability of the region. But as a small nation, we cannot become a superpower by military, but of course by reaching out through diplomacy, reaching out through investment, through partnerships. That's what creates really the footprint of the state of Qatar. And we believe as small states, we have a role to play as contributing to the stability of the region, but contributing also to the stability of the world. And what happened with us distinguishing Qatar in mediation, it wasn't like an occasional thing. It was a product of our geopolitical situation. That's why we are always aspiring to settle conflicts through mediations. And we have seen this fragmented world today. It's more and more needed, the role of those small countries. Well, when we are talking about mediation, mediation is a conflict between parties. And if those parties are, normally if you have like state actors, this is like always sounds normal sometimes. But in our region, unfortunately, it's between states and non-state actors. And those non-state actors, if we don't keep the open channels with them, then none of those conflicts can be resolved. And this has been demonstrated and proven throughout the last few years. If you look at what we have achieved by ending the longest war in the modern American history between the US and Afghanistan, hosting the office of Taliban was for a single purpose, to facilitate this mediation efforts. And these mediation efforts remained for almost like more than 7 years in order to achieve to that result. On Hamas also, when you look at it, there is all the outcomes that we have seen throughout 23, 24, and 25 reaching to the peace deal was only happening because of this open communication. Qatar is criticized for hosting them just for some very short-term political goals. Unfortunately, those people who are criticizing Qatar, those are the same people who are in need for countries like Qatar to have an open channel with those non-state actors. And at the end of the day, Qatar provide the platform, provide the forum for those parties to talk. It doesn't mean that we are taking one side or the other. Our role is to make sure that the dialogue is ongoing and the dialogue coming out with a positive outcome or constructive outcome that ends the conflict and ends the humanitarian suffering. First of all, I think that each conflict has its own nature, and we cannot compare like what's the mediation, for example, between the US and Afghanistan to the mediation between Israel and Hamas that happened recently. And basically what we have seen as a challenge in the recent mediation in Gaza was that there were only the US as part of mediation, they were only talking to one party, which is the Israelis. But in the recent rounds of the negotiations, they started engaging with both parties, which has helped us in making breakthroughs in these negotiations and achieving the ceasefire at that time. The difference, of course, between one administration to another, it's been always there. Like it's not, you cannot see one method that's followed by every administration. But what we have seen throughout the mediation process is an engagement and a willingness to push to the finish line, to get it done, and not to keep it open. Now, we are at a critical moment. It's not yet there. So it's what we have just done is a pause. We cannot consider it yet a ceasefire. A ceasefire cannot be completed unless there is a full withdrawal of the Israeli forces, there is stability back in Gaza, people can go in and out, which is not the case today. Right now, us as Qatar, Turkey, Egypt, together with the United States, we are getting together in order to force the way forward for the next phase. And this next phase is just also temporary from our perspective, because at the end of the day, if we are looking at, if we are just resolving what happened in Gaza, the catastrophe that happened in the last 2 years, it's not enough, because there is a root for this conflict. And this conflict is not only about Gaza, it's about the West Bank, it's about the rights of the Palestinians for their states. So we are hoping that we can work together with the US administration to achieve this vision at the end of the day. It's not easy, it will have a lot of challenges, it will face a lot of attacks, but we will keep pushing in order to find at the end of the day a long-lasting solution that provides justice for both people. Well, actually here where the enforcement is needed, because one of the lessons learned that we have seen and experienced throughout the last 2 years, that if accountability is absent and enforcement is absent, things can just keep going and we remain hostage in the hands of the extremists, and that's what we want to avoid. And we have seen that the efforts that all of us, we put together in order to reach to the ceasefire that we have achieved this year, needed for the next phase, which is the stabilization, and then the third phase, which is the Palestinian state. If this extremist agenda will just overshadow all our efforts as an international community, then everyone is recognizing that there is something wrong with the structure that we are working through. And I believe that US role is key in this, because US has the enforcement part of that in order to put this conflict on the right track for a resolution. Well, I think, if whenever we embark in any mediation efforts, we need to look at the destination that we are going to. In order to create a condition for a peace and coexistence, you need to show them the prosperity, you need to show them what can be built if you are building on your common interest. And trying to widen the foundation of the common interest between the parties is a key a key factor in order to achieve a successful mediation. Using the economic instruments in diplomacy is a very important thing, because basically when you have a lot at stake that you will lose if you will embark into any conflict with your neighbor or from within, then you will think about it twice. And I think that this is a very intelligent way in order to structure mediation around interests, around common interests between the countries, between the parties of the conflicts, and supporting it by mediators, by other international actors. I believe this is our modern world today. Every country in need for economic support, economic prosperity, and I believe putting our efforts together in order to achieve peace from that angle is a very important instrument.